feedback for October 4th, 2011. If it's October 4th, it can only mean one thing.
What?
Epictober.
Now we all have to talk like this.
Yes, it's Epictober. Yes, this is our first feedback for the month of October, which G4 has so modestly rebranded Epictober because most of us here are fans of classic English literature, Beowulf, epic poetry.
Odyssey-tober was taken.
Yeah, Odyssey-tober. You know, Iliad-tober just is so challenging.
It
you
is
know,
doesn't roll
I
off the
couldn't
tongue.
give the URL, to be honest.
Yeah,
It was
and
just
then
taken.
you know, Aeneid Tuesday, we had kicked that one around, but let's just say no. So sorry, Romulus.
brainy.
Sorry, Remus. We'll just have to try it again another year. It is Epictober, so obviously that means it's the special time of the year, exclusives, giveaways like I've never seen before. I mean, I'm assuming at some point someone's going to sell my house out from under me as another effort to kind of give our loyal viewers, you know, some
that is a
sort of
grand
bonus.
prize.
It's actually week 3, so
That is
heads up.
okay. That's what I thought because I can't understand why those men keep packing my crap up.
I've got a question. Will, at any point during this feedback, will Sarah Underwood ride a bicycle naked across the set?
Yeah, that's rumored.
I don't know. I mean,
have to
we
wait and
have
find out.
we have Bigfoot in the background.
Bigfoot naked on a bicycle,
Yeah.
maybe.
Not as cool, but
I agree,
I'm just, I don't know. I've watched all the promos
And she's naked on the bike. on
she's
everyone.
naked quite a
How many
bit.
times
So
does that happen?
And the bell rings.
72.
Well, a lot if it's Epictober.
It's an epic bike ride.
That's uncomfortable.
So, obviously, if you want to learn more about all the stuff that's coming out, really the easiest thing to do is you just go to the site or you watch the channel. But, you know, sometimes you want to give yourself something of a challenge because, you know, I guess that's what games have taught us out of life. So you can go to g4tv.com/Epictober.
Every time you say it, just letting you know.
All right,
Achievement
hold
unlocked.
on. Let's just get the other one out of the system. Exclusive.
Epically exclusive.
Yes.
I don't know. I haven't worked on that one yet.
It needs
but-
to work.
I liked it. It was pretty
All
simple.
right, so let's talk about some exclusive news. Well, I guess it's just exclusive to this episode, because we're probably not going to be talking about it that much, except for our first story, which I think, because it has not been confirmed by Microsoft, Bloomberg reported this. Xbox, we've heard that, look, they've been growing. When you look at what they're doing with ESPN, what they're doing with the UFC, they're turning that system into something a little bit more than just something that plays games. They were talking about TV at the last E3, though they were charmingly vague, and every time they talked about partnerships, none of them seem to be based in the United States of America.
Yeah. It's always Sky. It's always
It's
Sky.
like, oh, Sky
That's it.
TV. Oh, yeah, good. The Murdochs. Actually, no, they're not getting Sky TV. I'm going to correct myself on that. So now there's some rumors, and Bloomberg News broke this story that they are in talks with many players, the two biggest ones being Comcast and Verizon. I think this is in concert with the Xfinity service for Comcast and the FiOS service for Verizon for their content. And that would be streaming shows. It doesn't look like it's live television, but that you'd be streaming a lot of their content. We're also hearing that there's stuff with Time Warner. That could include HBO. Obviously, there's some talks with Universal NBC, our parent company, and that just sounds like it might be like Bravo shows and sci-fi. This is kind of big.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I think that we had talked about this a little bit earlier. I think that, like you said, I don't think that this is going to really be implemented this console cycle, but I feel like the Xbox 720 will be what the PS3 was supposed to be. You know what I mean? When they first announced PS3, they're like, it's $9,000.
Well,
It
but you'll
does
have all of
everything.
your content on this. And I feel like this is the first step forward in that kind of relationship
So you
and eliminating
think it's
all
gonna
the...
be years from now? It's not because there's a
No,
Xbox
you know,
I
update
think they're
on
going
the
to have
15th.
it. Yeah, I would say they're going to have it this year. This doesn't sound like Microsoft being very shrewd. Let's
Yeah.
try it out. Let's get people used to the idea, but then we
Yeah.
have the full package with the new console. It's kind of similar to what they did with Xbox Live on the original Xbox, and then really making it kind of the centerpiece with all of their lessons learned with
A
360.
few months ago, HBO held their own kind of press conference saying how well HBO Go was doing for them. And they said before Microsoft, or this article called out HBO, that they were planning on bringing their service to the consoles. No date, no time frame,
Right.
no
Right.
console specifically. But so, I mean, these companies are already working on it.
Right, but
Yeah.
the interesting thing about HBO is that they're essentially a subscription-based channel, right? So they, I think, more so than maybe a Bravo, they have the ability to tell you how you're going to actually, kind of consume their content. Whereas, like we're talking about actual networks, and the fact that this could potentially eliminate content providers is a really big deal. And I think that we're going to see, like you said, some testing of it. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of legal stuff they're going to have to go through to say, hey, cable boxes, you're no longer necessary. I think a lot of these Comcast being one of those corporations, I think they're really going to take a long look at this
Well,
and
but
go,
it's also
wait a minute.
for cable providers
these guys.
like Comcast, where they offer internet and they offer sort of the TV cable. This is kind of moving out of, okay, no more providing of the TV cable. It's just that internet pipeline.
Sure.
And then through these various subscriptions. I mean, what's funny is if this was to become the wave of the future, which I think many people have discussed it is, this is the a la carte thing that Congress talks about every other year, where like you don't have to buy packages from your cable provider. You get to pick exactly what channels you want.
Absolutely.
This is almost a move in that direction. I mean, I don't know if it's good or if it's bad. It sounds great for Microsoft. And the one other thing I was going to say is I think this is what Microsoft wanted to do since the original Xbox. Because remember they had web TV?
Well, don't you remember,
I don't remember that.
even with the 360 a few years ago, they promised that IPTV was going to come to the Xbox, and we never saw that materialize. ESPN recently was sort of a step in that direction. I don't know if you guys have used that ESPN service on the Xbox, but it's actually great.
Really?
You go in, you tell it what teams you like, it pulls that content for you, it keeps it so you can watch it later. It's almost TiVo-ish, but
Do you think-
you can't tell it what to record.
But do you think any of the other consoles will be able to pull this off?
Yeah. That's
Well,
the
you mean
thing.
the other console?
Well, okay.
Let's say that hopefully the other consoles still have problems just with that sheer internet thing.
Oh, that. Sure. It's
One
new.
even worse than the other. And
Nintendo.
Microsoft is a very shrewd business partner. And I've never seen Sony really kind of step up and they always seem to be following behind Microsoft on this. I have to assume, given the level of hardball Microsoft has been playing lately, that if they're getting this content, I don't know how much of a door they're leaving open for this content to be able to find other consoles.
And I mean, you can just right there, the fact that they're partnering with Fios, which right now is, I mean, I happen to be one of the fortunate few that can get Verizon Fios in
Not
this
one of
area.
them.
But that's really the only kind of pipeline you're able to deliver all of this content on
Yeah.
seamlessly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Verizon's really the only people out there laying fiber optics for this type of content. And so if Microsoft says, we're going to go get into bed with the only company that has this fiber optic stuff going right now, it's going to eliminate a lot of the other consoles being a part of this game.
I mean, Sony. If you look at the future, if Microsoft is selling something, and this is the one thing I found interesting when they said they were looking at Bravo content. Boy, that doesn't sound like the gamer base, does it?
sci-fi,
I mean,
isn't that?
You know what? Well, sci-fi seems to skew. We should know because it's a sister station of us now. But
We like you.
It seems to skew both male and female.
even-
But I mean, I think it's showing that Microsoft really has this confidence, and I think it's been borne out by what we've seen in the social gaming and the casual gaming, that 360 is no longer this masculine thing sitting in the living room, and that all aspects of a home can see value in it in terms of content
It's an
or gaming.
entertainment console.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
really
a gaming
is.
console.
Exactly.
But weren't the numbers way down for like Facebook and Twitter on the Xbox? Remember when that was kind of hailed as a big deal when they were like, "Oh my
Yeah,
God,
well,
it's
that one
coming
made
to
no
the
sense.
Xbox."
I mean,
no, because it's not it's
Because
not really.
Facebook's everywhere.
But when you're sitting in
Interactive.
front of your television, game or
something
or,
that's
or
coming to
television
me.
or movie, I'm at
can
least
totally
trying
see
to
that.
exclude as many people as possible from my world.
Right.
Not invite all of them
Close
in.
it out.
When
You don't
I'm
wanna
at
reach out
work
to them.
and I don't want to be with the people there, you go on Twitter, you go on
Right.
Facebook to reach the outside world. I mean, I hopefully we're going to hear an announcement soon. Let's just be open with our audience. This is late Tuesday morning. There's a good chance by the time you see this on Wednesday that this announcement could
It's
have
rumored
happened.
for this week.
So we're not so myopic. You're just looking at sort of a time wormhole type of thing.
Yeah.
It happens.
You'll also know about the new iPhone by the time you're watching this. So whatever that is.
Oh
Yeah. And
yay!
it will have Facebook.
It'll have
so.
tint control.
Tent control is totally what I want.
So Kevin, there was I believe there's an article in Fortune magazine that talked about Call of Duty having an unholy union
Yes.
with Pepsi, which of course I start thinking of like the initial pages of Garth Ennis's Preacher.
That's
when I
how
think
it
of
starts
unholy
out.
unions. But I mean, is it something that will give me the power in the word?
It's going to give you power in the game. Pepsi and Pepsi
nice.
products are making a deal with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. We saw the inklings of this, the first beginnings of this at the Call of Duty XP event. Cans of Mountain Dew and Doritos chips are going to have a QR code on them that you can scan and you send into a certain email address, and then you get X amount of minutes where it's going to double your XP in the game.
But okay, not Pepsi, but Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew was who they used as a partner at the XP
I mean,
event.
it is most typically affiliated
Yeah.
with gamers, but it's just it's just
You'll double your XP. So you buy one can of Mountain Dew, you'll get, I think it's 10 minutes, 12, 15
20
minutes.
ounce, 15 minutes. A 12 pack gets you 45, and
Yeah.
you are limited, guys, to 750 codes. So
It's a lot of double XP.
Can I just say this is ridiculous and genius?
Yeah, I know.
It's
all
so
at
both
the
those
same
things.
time. 750. Mom, here's what I need from you. Okay, I need you to go out and buy 750 bags of Doritos. It's fine. They're non-perishable. We're okay. I will
like
eat
the,
them
uh,
eventually.
It's like the guy with the
Later.
pudding cups and the frequent
but-
flyer miles.
Exactly.
What about the kid that lives in the area that doesn't get like frequent, uploads of new Dorito bags? And
Well, he gets his ass handed to him in Call of Duty. That's what
Yeah, it's
happens.
spanked in multiplayer.
I mean, I think honestly we should probably repost the ever popular lecture from Dice 2 years ago from Jesse Schell about the term of gamification. This is it.
Yeah.
Where you're taking daily activities and you're giving it the logic and the reward system of a video game. Obviously, this is even a step further because it does flood back into a video game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Who looks better in this, Pepsi or Call of Duty? I think both images get burnished, at least in the shrewdness of their decision making or the significance of their product.
Yeah.
I mean, who do you think? Is it Call of Duty or is it Pepsi?
I think it's Activision.
Call of Duty's going to look like they're just you're getting double XP, but it's
Yeah.
going to look like they're unless if I start seeing Mountain Dew pop up in the game or an ad in the subway level or something, that's going to be a little
Right, but
weird if I
in
start
terms
seeing
of,
that.
I mean, I think it just shows how important the brand Call of Duty has become.
yeah.
But
oh, sure.
I think it also, I mean, who knows how much Pepsi, gunned to get this affiliation going, but that it's not Coke. I mean, I think Pepsi does burnish their own image as something that skews a little bit more young.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
just,
probably why they chose Mountain Dew because I don't know
Yeah.
that many responsible adults who drink a lot of Mountain Dew.
I don't know that many responsible adults.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, okay, we're
I
not
mean,
in the best environment for
Exactly.
that.
Not
I
here.
don't think it
Not
makes
here.
anybody look good right here now.
No.
I mean, it's an unfair advantage to kids and adults and just gamers who don't want to buy the product.
But what about free to play? This is also a form of the free to play model. It's just that you're kind of getting a
It's the
material
opposite
and
of
an
free.
immaterial object. Well, no, but the way that free to play makes money is they're going to get you to buy things so that if I don't have the amount of time or don't have the amount of skill to invest in the game,
Right.
I'm going to use my money to, get more stuff for my farm, get some stuff for my player. I mean, it seems to be following the same logic, except they got Pepsi that's doing all their
brand.
legwork for them.
Well, that brings us to our second story, which is even more in that vein because if you go into a Subway store now through any time in October and buy a 30-ounce drink, you
More
get
soda
30 ounce
kids.
drink, by the way.
That's a big drink. That's like
Jesus
2.5
Christ.
cans of soda is 30 ounces. You get into the you get into the Uncharted 3, the entire multiplayer experience. You're not getting a beta. You're not getting 2 levels. You're getting the entire Uncharted 3 multiplayer experience.
And it carries
for the
up to
cost
level
of a 30-ounce
35. It carries over
so
to
you
when you
don't
buy
need
the
to
disc.
buy the retail game?
For a
no,
month.
for 1 month, just for October.
Okay, I get it. I mean, that's
Pretty
but
epic.
there will be
No,
special
no.
Subway items in the maps.
Really?
So it's
Will there be
kind of
like
like-
Michael Strahan
Yes,
in there?
he'll be in the map.
Yeah.
Jared will be in the
Yeah,
map.
Jared
Jared's
will be-
actually the boss.
Jared is one of the guys you get.
So-
Adam, your friend, is back out. By
Hey,
the way,
Oh my god.
yeah.
he's always
You
here.
rang.
You know what? Hey, Blair?
Yes.
maybe that is code for Sarah Underwood naked on a bicycle.
That's what it
Maybe
is.
That's
she's
what
gonna
it
get
is.
naked on the
Yeah.
Greta bicycle.
Yeah, who knows?
If you buy a 30-ounce drink.
Better keep watching this episode. It's getting interesting. This one, the quid and the pro quo seem a little bit less balanced. Like, chip for XP. This is drink for multiplayer.
Yeah.
That's pretty
It's a much better
significant.
deal. I mean,
Well, it's a better deal, but I have to be frank. It sounds a little more desperate. I mean, look, Uncharted 3 I have every anticipation being one of the great games of this year.
and it won't be because of its multiplayer, but by any means.
But maybe
I
this
mean,
incentivizes people to play the multi. Maybe this is them going, look, everybody's going to play this game for the single player campaign, right? Why don't we just say the normal person that's going to go into a Subway and see this ad is going to be like, oh, well, I guess I could play multi. I'm going to buy a 30-ounce drink because, Jared and Michael Phelps over there tell me that I should. So I read it in a DC comic. It's like 10 pages in every DC comic is a Subway cartoon. But maybe they look at it and go, oh, I guess this makes.
Well,
I'll
I'm the kind of
play
guy.
multiplayer. I have it for free for a month.
I like to think that the night before the Rose Bowl parade, there are people frantically putting these things together, gluing flowers on everything. I want the Uncharted team to be working on this game up until the last minute. That means they've already finished the multiplayer and it's ready to go. They said this in an
You
interview.
think that much about the Rose Parade?
I know. What? How does
Every
that
night,
analogy come to be?
Every night. I'm just saying, like, they're working
Yeah.
up until the very last second.
Well-
And this thing, they're like, we're done with multiplayer. We're
I
done.
mean, they
had
it's
that
October
long
right
beta.
now.
I bet they could still be tweaking the multiplayer.
They
But I mean,
changed a lot from the
from
beta.
what I've gathered about Sony's certification process, it is a little long, and you know
has to be turned in really early.
something gold should be in the pipeline pretty
They
soon.
definitely had a lot of problems with the beta when the Uncharted 3 beta was out.
They've changed quite a bit.
Yeah, but that's
There
what
was a
betas
lot
are
of
for, as we were
problems.
talking
But
about
that was
last
like a
week.
month and a half ago. So I'm wondering how much they, solidified as going gold.
Well,
and ready
apparently
for this.
EA's more than confident with their beta they're putting out. Pepsi with Doritos and Mountain Dew, I'd say those are fairly male demographic brands, young male
Definitely
demographic.
seems like it.
Subway, no, I don't think it skews that heavily male, that heavily female. I mean, their whole angle has been more sort of what the product is. That's interesting with Uncharted, which kind of had, Uncharted 2 became so notorious for non-gamers wanting to sit and watch somebody else play the game because of how well the game flowed and stuff like that.
It's like a movie.
I do find the branding partnership to be a little bit interesting, and it might give some insight into how Sony regards. Like, I think their crown jewel right now.
Well, remember when Resident Evil 5 came out and you had to buy the multiplayer later, even though it was on your disc? How long are we away from, like, well, you got that game, you want to play multiplayer? You need to go get a Happy Meal at McDonald's between these next 2 weeks.
I mean, considering a lot of people are buying a lot of these first-person shooters, not for the 6-hour single-player campaign, but for the multiplayer, I think that's a definite reality at some point.
We've
unfortunately.
talked, and Bobby Kotick has mentioned it, that, just kill the single player and just have subscription based on the multiplayer.
Yeah.
I mean, what you could be by kind of using this cipher of hamburger, drink,
I'm hungry now, by the way.
chip.
A hamburger
getting
cipher.
people used to the idea
I want
that
to solve
there's-
that riddle with my mouth.
that we're getting people accustomed to the idea of spending money for, at least here you're kind of getting something out of it. It also sounds like you're reminding people like there's marketing for the game. But look at the season pass that you get on like
Elite.
Gears or stuff like this.
Yeah.
Everyone's moving in this direction. They're just taking these baby steps to see
Right.
like, okay, how much can we piss everybody off? And
Do you know who owns what's Subway's parent company? The reason I say, I know I just made fun of it, but I mean, they do have a spread in every DC comic. They now have this, like, somebody at Subway is really dipping into the nerd culture, man. Like, it's pretty interesting that their ad campaign for years was like, hey, average fatty, look, normal average fatty lost weight by eating Subway.
Yeah.
Now they have ads in DC Comics and Uncharted 3
Well, they've
multiplayer.
been-
It's
they've
like,
been in
what
bed
a
with,
shift what a shift in
Michael
I mean,
Phelps has his video game now.
Are we
yeah, that set
sure?
the world
And
on fire.
I'm embarrassed that I don't know this, but I mean, there's no reason that Pepsi doesn't own Subway. I can't remember what's the. I can't remember who the parent company is. for that.
You might be
I never
right.
knew, so I
We need
can't.
to do some due diligence.
yeah,
can't
this could be
remember.
interesting. All right,
But Uncharted has been in bed with Sony since E3 because they had that big presence outside Sony's keynote where all those guys were dressed like Nathan Drake handing out free Subway sandwiches, remember?
Oh yeah.
They had the box
Yeah.
lunches.
I
They
remember.
were all
They were
sponsored
pretty
by
Nathan
Subway.
Drakes.
So
Yeah, they should
Yeah.
have put mayonnaise on some of those because it's in the sun all day. That's
All day.
a really bad decision.
yeah, dressing up like Nathan Drake, it's kind of like just shopping at Banana Republic. It became all like, hey,
add
this
a
is
little,
what wearing Adam or wearing our next.
you're all good. Half tuck your shirt.
Or Gap.
So let's go to legal matters. Bethesda. We're about to talk about Rage that's coming out, but they seem to be still kind of. They have some issues about their other two franchises, both Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and,
Yeah,
and
they
they've
have
been
some,
in court
They
quite a
like
bit.
to start lawsuits, is what I've noticed. It's just
It is so
it's an
much fun to start a
observation.
lawsuit. Wait till tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So Bethesda has been denied a restraining order against Masthead Studios, who is co-developing the Fallout MMO. Now,
and this is with Interplay, the original publisher of Fallout 1 and 2, who, for all intents and purposes, does not exist anymore.
right. I mean, they're on the verge of bankruptcy and have been for a while.
No, like, they have a house on the verge of bankruptcy. They've been there so long.
Oh, okay. But originally in 2007, Bethesda bought the rights to Fallout from Interplay, under the condition that that Interplay would be able to make the Fallout MMO. Now, 2 years later, Bethesda thought that Interplay was in violations of that contract, and so they sued them for that and tried to get them to stop making that. And the court denied that. So then they requested a restraining order against Masthead Studios and the Fallout Online MMO, and so that's been denied as well.
I mean, the thing is, what's happening here is that this is still like this hasn't been settled legally. It's that
It's a
there
back and
isn't
forth.
like clearly the judge is not satisfied that there's enough evidence here that he's going to actually inhibit Masthead and Interplay from pursuing this. But in
Right.
terms of the legality, I think I see where Bethesda's coming from because their IP is a little bit in a nebulous state. But my confidence that this MMO is coming out is pretty minimal.
Yeah.
I mean,
The website exists. I have signed up, so when the beta starts, I'm fingers crossed for an
All
email.
right.
What are you going to buy to get into
But
that?
so
bid?
I mean, the issue here is that the Fallout MMO, according to Bethesda, is not allowed to use anything in the Fallout universe because Bethesda owns that.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really speak for any of this. But my confusion is, what did Interplay think they were signing on to if they're making a Fallout MMO without Fallout? Like, did they buy those 7 letters?
Well, maybe it's
6
something
pounds
on a
away.
very heavy, like molecular level. So you're actually inside of Fallout.
Maybe you are a Pitbull.
You know, you're seeing. I don't know what happens in that.
how
It sounds like somebody from Bethesda watched The Social Network and said, that's remarkably similar to what we're doing right now. So let's just see these guys. Also, so to clarify, people other than girls can get restraining orders?
Apparently.
Yes.
Yes.
Huh.
So you need to be
Yes.
really worried, Blair.
Interesting.
So watch Bethesda just have one against you, so that you can.
I
It's
could
much
see
easier
Todd
for girls.
Howard at
I
some
mean, you
point
can
saying,
really-
I'd prefer it if you didn't
round out
contact
your
me.
collection.
But
This is news to me.
there are things in Fallout 3 that are in Fallout 1 and 2. There's references to the groups. They clearly, when that agreement was made, there was back and forth
Well,
on
Bethesda
Interplay's
bought
part.
everything except the right to make an MMO. And I bet you, if this is settled and Interplay
bizarre.
can't go forward, I'm sure Bethesda will consider making a Fallout MMO. I mean, why not?
Who
I
was
mean-
making Van Buren, which was going to be Fallout 3 before Fallout 3 became Fallout 3?
God, that's a good question. I remember that, and I don't.
I wonder who was
recall.
working on that. I don't know.
I mean, a Fallout MMO. I mean, once again, I think so many. There was even an intimation from BioWare about a Mass Effect MMO. Nothing clear. I mean, look, everyone's waiting to see what Old Republic is going to
Right.
do, and then whether or not we're going to move over to the free to play model with our MMOs, because that's going to change how you're going to develop one of these things as well.
I wonder how different this story would be, or if we'd even be talking about this if New Vegas didn't do what it did to the brand. You know what I mean? Like if New Vegas was as successful.
Do you think it hurt the brand that badly?
I think that
It
Bethesda
launched
did a
pretty
great job
broken.
of taking a step back and going, we didn't make this.
Yeah.
We did not make this particular game. But yeah, I think the Fallout, I mean, right now,
Because
when you think
most
Fallout.
people don't know that was from 2 different studios.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess within the industry we know obviously, but I think that Skyrim is going to regain a lot of capital for them.
Yeah,
I think
I
they're gonna go.
think so too. It's become sort of there. Now, let's
Speaking
move
of
over to that.
Skyrim.
So, Elder Scrolls itself is also in a strange legal situation.
Right. So I think we had mentioned a few weeks ago that Mojang and Bethesda are engaging in some legal battles over Mojang's upcoming game, Scrolls. And it is a card-based strategy game, not an RPG. There's really, in my opinion, not a lot of room for
Okay,
confusion.
is it digital?
I believe so.
Okay.
But
it's
I mean,
a card-based, computer game.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
card-based,
And so the issue is that the Elder Scrolls, they think that the World Scrolls would infringe on their copyright of the Elder Scrolls, and they're suing. They're officially going to court with Mojang.
Now, Mojang is also the creator of Minecraft.
Yeah.
Now, is this game inside of Minecraft? Is it something somebody made, or is it actually like a
This is
wholly
going to be
owned?
another game.
Okay, an entirely other game. Is it fantasy based? Like the fantasy based
I
card
mean,
game?
Maybe it's strategy. I mean, I'm sure there's some, made up elements to it. We haven't seen that much of it yet, but I mean, it's called Scrolls. I would say that.
I mean,
there's-
I think the problem is that when Bethesda goes after a card game named Scrolls, the general public's going to look at the narrative of just someone trying to swat a fly with a Scud missile. But at the same time, I think this has come up before. It's interesting. Explain Mojang's behavior towards this, because this is the part that I find most curious.
Well, I mean, from day one, when this first became an issue, Mojang released the papers that ZeniMax, Bethesda's parent company, served them. And unfortunately, they were in Swedish. So, I mean, there was some translation, Google Translate, that who knows what was lost. But they released all their papers to the public. And now this is going to court because Mojang has said, we have tried to talk to Bethesda and we keep getting shut down by lawyers. And they even said that this was an expensive way of communicating.
And that's what Bethesda wants
Okay,
to
but
do.
here-
They want.
here's
They're
the
like,
thing.
we
Here's
want to
the
just
thing.
keep this locked up in
I
court
mean,
forever.
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, and this isn't 100% not my opinion. They're calling a game Scrolls. I'm going to assume we don't know has some fantasy elements.
Maybe some elves.
Bethesda says don't do that. Bethesda, big. Mojang, not as big. You can change it to charts. Who
like
knows?
that,
It
though.
could have even
Parchments.
been the mysterious scrolls. Boom, Bethesda's off your back. Instead, they're kind of playing WikiLeaks here and saying, we're going to release all the papers, woe is us, look at this. And, in an effort to kind of generate that kind of quick, knee-jerk narrative response that the internet seems to want to have to this.
Also a lot of
And they
publicity
are.
in the
But
process.
see, and to be frank, it's contrary to their business interests. I mean,
Probably,
they're,
absolutely.
they're going to spend legal fees. They're going to get tied up in court with a company that is far better financed. And it just, I guess part of this seems vainglorious. Part of this seems more for the attention than in any effort to actually preserve their game. And I guess burnish their image to some extent in the process. But once again, it just, there's something, I got to be frank, that seems a little juvenile about this.
Well, I mean, juvenile, yes, but it's also kind of, making them almost this martyr on the internet. I mean, they're having so many people standing behind
martyrdom
them.
in the internet lasts a month.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And they have
Especially
a
after
business.
Skyrim
They
comes
have a
out.
business.
People wanna get
I'm
behind
assuming
them.
they
Everything's
have-
forgiven.
I mean, look, let's be fair. If they're running a business, they have employees who are probably, dependent upon income from the company to be able to, underwrite their salaries.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, we all love this kind of youthful, yes, let's fight Goliath. And Goliath wins, kiddos. That's how it goes. Turn off the Disney movies. You don't win against the big guys. The deck is stacked against you. There. Carry on.
Man.
That's so many
Bible's
ways.
wrong.
You lied.
So I guess with Bethesda kind of rolling over everything, let's talk about Bethesda's newest game. This is Rage.
Rajay in
Rajay.
France.
It is French. Very French.
So
Rajay.
I don't know. We made that
I
up.
like
Blair
that.
knows this, and I got Blair.
You're
on
damn
board with
right
this.
I do.
I have
What?
been very excited about this game. I saw it for the first time last year. It was a Bethesda event in Vegas, and I feel has had a lot of problems with their image. Their last game was Doom 3, which I think was a technically proficient game that didn't have, the all the design that other games have been doing. It didn't sort of acknowledge where Halo had taken the shooter, where a lot of games out there had taken the shooter. And in addition, it also came out the same year as Half-Life 2, which was a huge leap for where shooters could go. So it's technically proficient, but it seemed to be mired in this kind of old design philosophy. And that was kind of their lasting impression. And unfortunately, as I said in my review, which pissed somebody off really badly, I compared them to Terrence Malick in terms of the sporadic nature of their output, which is Terrence Malick is a genius filmmaker. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what this jackass
Why
is
was
so
he
offended
mad
by.
about
But I mean,
Maybe he hates his
The
movie.
internet
I
is
don't
easily
know.
offended.
Maybe Malick came over to his house and rubbed his face with his or something because this guy was pissed.
I've heard
Anyway.
Terrence Malick
He does.
is known for doing.
You didn't like A New World? I'm coming over and I'm slapping you in the cheek, son.
That's really weird.
So it's
It happened.
But because that was the lasting impression, so much more has happened with shooters. I could sense skepticism from people out there and from a lot of my colleagues, even though the game that I saw up on the screen really looked quite impressive and very different from what it had done before. It didn't have that really driven design. And I'm curious for you guys, does it feel like an id game? If you didn't see what was on the box and someone gave this to you, what would you say?
Well, I mean, it looks so advanced for what I would think an id game from 10 years ago would be.
Right.
And I mean, it's just, they managed to take this game where it's about this decaying, dying wasteland of an apocalyptic world and make that so incredibly beautiful that, I mean, it feels, it's artistic, which I didn't expect from it.
Yeah, and it is pleasant. Fallout 3, I would have to take a break from that
Ugly.
game because it
It's
really started to
ugly
weigh
to look
down
at.
on me. And but also it was so unpleasant at times. It's like I got to go play Sly Cooper or something just to kind of have that. I didn't feel in this. I think the color palette and there was a strange, not sardonic humor, but just kind of lightness to some of the animations and how it played out.
There's a lot of lightness. The story at sometimes it is
What story?
incongruous. I know that there's people that have been pointing out, like, you're in this post-apocalyptic, nightmarish kind of world. Mutants are everywhere. The authority is this overbearing, government in charge. But you go into Wellspring for the first time, and they're like, "Howdy, stranger, how you doing? Come on in and buy some armor."
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't doom and gloom, which was nice.
Yeah, and also I just like the idea that it's just a strange pastiche. Okay, I'm sorry. I put this in my review, so I'm just going to have to say this. The apocalypse genre did not start with video games.
What?
In fact, the apocalypse genre is the Western. Go back and watch Mad Max, and especially The Road Warrior. That is a Western. Stranger comes to town in an amoral society and wants to put his existential stamp on the existence and try to either change or hurt the moral growth that is supposed to be happening there. It's just more sexy when it's in the apocalypse because youngins don't like the dustiness and the strange six-shooters of the Western. So I think to that extent, that town and all that stuff is playing off of all the tropes that we're familiar with from the Western.
And also, I mean, the first dude you meet is King Ralph. So that provides a certain amount of levity as well to the game. I think the biggest departure from id's previous offerings, I think what id did really well in the past, especially with a franchise like Doom, is they found a way to make this incredibly tense corridor shooter. And this game is not a corridor shooter at all.
But it will still have moments.
It has moments, but you're like, it's so
Yeah.
open. You're like, wow, this gunfight that plays out in this massive courtyard, which, as you remarked about, plays differently depending on the types of enemies that are in that courtyard, is just so different, I think, than, walking through a space station with a flashlight in a hallway.
I think that's the thing, is that you could always see how it was in love with its technology. You saw that in Quake 3. Quake 2, I remember, it was like the first game to use a graphics accelerator. That's what we called them back then, kids. Graphics accelerators to create the polygons, the triangles. And I think you always felt that the game had to be in the service of the technology. I feel it's so different in that in some of the combat level design, I feel that this had been just nitpicked to get it to where they wanted it, so it would play out really well.
Even the AI in those situations, I'm so impressed by the
so smart.
like when an enemy reacts to where you're shooting, they will try to flank you. They're smart. They use the ceiling and everything, and you hit them in a specific spot, they'll stagger, they'll hold their arm if you shoot them.
And then, like, one of the cool aspects of the game is that you get to build these devices. And I think that's what moves it also out of traditional shooter into something a little bit more like, say, BioShock, because you have these devices you can build to help you out in your
crafting,
situation.
yeah.
But I love that, you'll throw out the turrets, expecting that this will just mow them down. Some of those enemies will just come up, kick
Knock
it over,
them
it's
over,
pointless.
which is genius.
And that, it will, if you do reload and you play it, they do behave differently, depending. But what I think is most impressive there is, we've seen games with very dynamic AI. The animations usually can't keep pace with the decision-making of the artificial intelligence, and you see those kind of breaks in the animation. This is frighteningly smooth. And is it the ghosts that kind of have that loping quality?
Yeah.
Ghosts are the one that go up the walls and stuff and get really close to you.
There's something that's almost unsettling about
They have no
how
fear.
nimble they are.
Yeah.
That it's just kind of like if you see like a millipede or a spider, and you're like, just how like
Yeah,
they
you're creeped
are.
out. Well, and it's 60 frames per second too, which is throughout.
And it feels
On the
like
360.
Yeah.
I mean, there are certain kind of texture problems when
Texture
you
pops.
spin around a bunch of times really fast. But
Which
I
I
mean,
do,
Yeah,
so- I
but
play the game.
it's but by and large, it's beautiful. However, the pink elephant in the room.
Yeah,
is-
I mean,
Should we-
why don't we
We
get
should-
to that and go back to some, I think, of the salient aspects of this game. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought this game was, one of my favorites of the year until a transition that happens. And Blair, you have finished it, so I wanted to see if you felt the same way. The game is a 2-act structure, which I've now come to decide is a bad idea. 3 acts, but it doesn't have to be of the same length, but you just want that traditional
It's a formula that
flow.
works. Why
It does.
deviate?
Right.
The second act is very minimal compared to the first one. This is where you get to a place called Subway Town. The very geography that
Subway Town. It all comes back.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The geography of the outside area where you drive around is considerably smaller. Subway Town itself, I don't know if by square footage or virtual square footage it's any different. It feels more cramped, but also you just don't feel like you have as much game. And you don't also feel that this new evolution to another part of the game is driving you towards an expansion of what you've learned before. In fact, it feels like a contraction.
Yeah.
And I have never, to my memory, experienced this in a game where Phase 2 felt minimal compared to Phase 1.
I mean, literally, it's the game. It's like having a conversation with somebody, and you're like, I got this really great.
Yeah. I was like, oh, gotta go.
Yeah,
gotta go.
sorry, I'll tell you
that's
the story later.
The
It's-
way I felt is that it was kind of pushing me out the door. It's like waking up in a stranger's bed and you realize, oh, that was kind of a mistake. I better get out of here.
I never had that realization, but my standards are super low. Honestly, man, I mean, we talked about this, and my thought is that they literally removed the end of the game, or a very large chunk of it, and said, listen, here's what we want to give fans. Gears already has they've announced that they're going to start rolling out DLC immediately. We need to do the same thing for this game. Holy we don't really have any of that stuff. So let's just pull out.
That seems to be more and more the case
last-
these days.
But they had like
with
6
companies.
years to plan ahead. Like,
Well, I mean,
let's-
it is weird because what happens at the end is there's ambient dialogue that in
Leads
the
to
first act-
nothing.
Yeah, that in the first act would imply things you were going to do. That doesn't. There's this absolutely incredible city on top of Subway Town that you see in this kind of tram ride in, and I was like, oh hell yeah! Except for the fact I had this sinking feeling that I've played this game for like 15 hours. How much more could there be? This is weird. But this amazing city, you never go into this city.
does it have a name? Did they even go
Yes,
that far?
I've just blanked on it because you don't go to it, so it didn't resonate
It's
with me.
above Subway Ground City Town.
But you hear this
I like
ambient
that, yeah.
dialogue
Maybe
where they're
Pepsi
like,
Town.
yeah, we've been getting reports of the authority in that city, and they talk about how the city's abandoned, and it's like, ooh, cool, I can't wait to fight the authority. I bet I'm going to fight some monsters here. You never go there. And
Yeah.
it's just, and then there's, I think one of the best characters, which you only meet for a moment, is the mayor of Subway Town. You have a really nice mayor in Wellspring. You meet Big Red,
Yeah.
who's pretty much the mayor of Subway Town. He's just very unsavory. He looks like sort of Eddie Izzard playing a character that like Bob Hoskins might do. And,
Nice
it's all,
description.
and it's all
Bob Hoskins in drag.
and it's all punk. Yeah, it's kind of like Divine playing a man, I think is maybe the best way to put it. Which she did once, Trouble in Mind.
Oh, yeah, you're
Excellent,
right.
excellent movie with Chris Christopherson. Very hard to find.
To-do list. I'll put it on there.
And it's like, ooh, I might have to fight this mayor because this guy really doesn't seem to like me. Boom. Just removed from the story in a very inelegant way. And it's just that funny feeling like this doesn't, as I said, it feels like someone's pushing you out the door.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, and I want to say that, it's not the second half completely sucks. The combat situations they put you in are awesome. In fact, two of my favorites where you go to this crazy place with these canyons, you're over these rope bridges.
Yeah,
And-
fantastic.
And the music design in this section where it's like dun 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 dun, like my heart was just racing because these crazy barbarian guys are coming at you. Absolutely genius. And there's another one in a subway station. Genius. But none of it feels like it's coming together.
Yeah.
And that funny feeling that none of this game is going to start coming together because I loved like the idea of all these different like kind of bandits and groups and like things, but I thought it would all kind of amount to something. And it started to feel very elliptical. Like, no, once you did it, it's kind of behind you and you're moving on.
But there was enough allusions to things that
Yes.
it leads me to believe that they did remove. I mean, there's bad game design, and then there's we just needed to save something for later. And the fact that the rest of the game was designed so well, I can't believe that they're like.
And to your point,
F-
6 years.
Yeah, I can't believe they were like,
Plan ahead.
let's just write all this extra dialogue that'll never go anywhere. Like, there's no way they did that.
Well, it's just, but I mean, the end feeling is one of dissatisfaction, which only gets worse. And Blair has had this experience. The last 20 minutes of the game, the final level, is astonishing in its poor design. I mean, it is Doom 3. The worst elements of Doom 3 put together. Identical hallways, button presses, and I cannot believe it. Monsters jump out of
Closets.
closets. They just happen to be metallic closets.
And they
just
give
waiting
you,
in.
and spoiler alert, like one of the, I think the best parts of the game is the fact that you need to decide, you have to use different types of ammo and weapons depending on the enemy. The last level, they give you an all-powerful pulse cannon that throws away all the stuff that you learned in the
but the thing
past,
is-
and they
You
just
grab
say,
the gun,
just
yeah.
run down the silver corridor and blast people with the pulse
see, the
cannon.
thing
Don't worry
is-
though, there'll be ammo around every corner, so fire away. It's all good.
But see, here's the thing. I didn't use my pulse cannon because I assumed there was a boss battle or a massive
You should
battle
save it
waiting
for
for me.
it.
I better hold on to it.
Yeah.
And then it ends with the abruptness. I can't.
You just that was perfect. No, that was perfect. You just did it. Well done, sir.
But,
You
but
properly
more and more
captured.
games feel like they're doing this.
Oh.
Like they're
Dude,
trying
you-
things
you-
out
you-
to add it later in DLC.
But this is,
This
and
is
you will
egregious.
eventually get
Oh,
there.
no, but it has an ending. That just is like, and we're over. Bing.
Credits.
it's a whimper,
but
it's
the
not a
ending
bang.
is the biggest. Like, there's more to come, kids. Get ready for
my
it.
wife
To be continued.
ran.
Yeah.
I tend to play with headphones on, especially for shooters, because I would like to have my marriage last. So I'm finishing up, and I thought I was going to be spending the evening finishing this game, and I get to the ending. Apparently, I emitted some crazy sound that worried her so much she came running in the room, going, "Are you okay?" I was like, "It's over." She goes, "Oh, good, congratulations." I'm like, "No, it's over." and I spent most of the night having to take a couple shots of whiskey because I couldn't get
rough,
my
man.
head wrapped around what just happened there. And we've played bad endings. We all have. And I would love to hear what you think is kind of indicative of a terrible ending of a game. But those bad endings are like, darn, you just couldn't hold it out. Like you couldn't pull it out. Here, I felt it really tainted my memories and my feelings towards everything that preceded it. And that's why, even for a bad 20 minutes, I felt that it wasn't a 5 and it was a 4 because you just, and I said, it's like the Carnival Barker pulls back that curtain and you realize the bluster all along and they never were going to deliver on the promise of what they were saying.
Well, I have to wonder, like, what you guys, 'cause I haven't gotten to the ending yet. I'm probably 7-8 hours in, but from where I'm at in the game, I don't know what the story is. I go on these missions. I'm told the authority is bad. I'm told I need these upgrades. I'm told I need to do these missions, but I'm not told why. And so I'm wondering what you wanted out of
why
this
for
ending.
the moment, but not for the larger picture.
I have no idea what my goal for the game was.
And that's one of the things. You do feel like it's supposed to start coming together. And I thought, and I think the open world design, this is a part I would love to talk about, does give you that sense like, you're going to dole out your information a little bit more slowly and more elegantly. Because, when you're playing Call of Duty or even Resistance, it's like,
She's a
save
terrorist.
yourself! But in this, it's like, cool. You get to learn a little bit about the world. Okay, we get a little bit of story. We get a little bit of side
Pick
mission.
things up from dialogue.
It's
slow.
it's at that point you arrive at Subway Town, you realize it's not going to come together, and that's where that sinking feeling started to come in.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, and I want to go back to the positives. We talked so much about the negative. I was able to put that more to the side because I was having so much fun in these combat scenarios. Because every single time, every time you go into one of these, let's call them dungeons, it's not what you just played before, and you're relearning everything.
And every bandit's different. Every bandit has a different weapon. They have a different way of attacking you. Some stick to cover. Some run right up at you.
And within those bandits, you have subdivisions that also behave very differently.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about endings, and Borderlands also had a very unsatisfying ending. And
But it didn't promise something.
Yeah, and
that's
also
the thing.
once you get to it,
the vault
you'll
was supposed to be
understand
cool.
how
Disappointing.
different this is in a
Fable
normal
2
bad ending.
Had a bad ending, but I love that game so much.
Yeah.
And I think where the difference is, and this is the open world part I would love to get to, is that you didn't feel that it was putting so much of an onus on the story bringing you to events.
Yeah.
That like when everything is so well composed in Rage, you kind of expect that composition to bleed into everything
there's
else.
a lot of story
in
that's supposed to
Fallout,
come together.
in Fable, in Borderlands, you could tell that it was kind of the remarkable qualities of a certain type of design that was really kind of holding you in. This, they raised their bar so high in the beginning, you're kind of obliged to just keep it going because you'll become more aware of where it's starting to lack. It's not an open world game. I mean, do you think we're all in agreement on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny?
You can run around if you want, but
and there's a little bit of stuff out there. But isn't it funny that when you see that open environment, I was talking about this on the soapbox, you do start to almost unconsciously start to read it as an open world game, and that like you're almost trying to fight it a bit to figure out how open, is it?
Well, the
my
game
problem
will
with
fight you.
with the open world concept, like when you leave a town and you're driving to the next area and you're passing through areas that'll tell you on the screen, like you're now in Scorcher territory, et cetera, et cetera. You have finite encounters in those. Like you'll kill 3
Which is
cars.
the same 2 cars, though.
You'll kill the same 2 guys, and then the last one you kill, there'll be a slow motion thing where the game is kind of telling you, like, okay, you're done with this area for now because you've cleared everyone out. But I wanted those to be a little more organic.
I guess as someone who thought the Far Cry 2 could have been one of the finest shooters, that was absolutely destroyed by its incessant, annoying men in jeeps trying to kill you.
Yeah.
I was far more grateful that they didn't try to overfill their open world, that if there's an ebb and flow. And it's also not as absolutely empty as, say, Mafia 2, which is beautiful. But I think it served a similar purpose. It's more to give you a sense of where you are. That I think makes it feel a little bit richer than if they took those same levels, slapped them right next to each other. I mean, there's everyone, like, you read the comments and it's like, it can either be linear or it can be GTA. And I think there's a little bit of room right there in the middle.
Well, I mean, you can choose which side quest you go on, but I mean, because there's so little story, like I wanted to do the missions of the characters that talk the most because I figured then I would get story from it. And like I discovered the Shrouded Clan's hideout on accident. So I mean, there is you can travel, I guess, at your own pace, but the game's linear in that it has a story that it wants you to follow.
Yeah, you want to unlock certain areas.
I mean, is that a bad thing?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. So let's talk about the driving. Here's the thing: this game in the shooting, understandably, controls beautifully. I was stunned how well the driving works in this game.
It. I played so many.
Really?
I mean, I spent so much time in the races. I mean, I got the achievement for like I had to,
upgrading the car.
Yeah.
It performs differently. It reminded me of what happens when you get better weapons in Borderlands. You're like, wow. That plays
Well,
differently.
I on the flip side got bored with the races, like to get
I agree.
certificates to upgrade. Those races were not very difficult, and it's easy to get first place every time.
Especially once you get the meat and
I'm
bash.
like, I
Have
need
you
to
done
do
the
10 more
rallies? Because the
races.
rallies are decidedly harder, especially in the subway town. Like I
Yeah,
gave up
getting
on
the
some of those rally
like collect
races.
50
No, I haven't
points
ra-
or
I haven't
whatever.
raced there yet,
Oh,
so.
and I mean, I thought that was a part where I was like, wow, this is like Twisted Metal, like the rally collect 50 points thing, because it's not really about getting to the rally points the quickest. It's about knowing where they all are, and then camping around those and blowing the shit out of other cars,
Yep.
and it becomes more of a strategy than just running around in a circle, which I
mean, you know,
actually liked. And there's a nice
the
change of
races
pace.
are easy. There seems to be also an interest, which I'll be frank, I was somewhat apprehensive, even though I wanted to play this game so badly. Games can sometimes be hard in a mean way, like you'll never get past this, and you know
Dark
that's
Souls.
not that's Dark Souls is a different story, and it's awesome for what it does.
I love this game.
Intentionally mean.
I
love
didn't
it.
know if they actually knew through design how to sort of be a little bit more open to bring in as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that sometimes they go so far on the side of the easy, as you can see in the races, but that does give the opportunity for a less experienced player to get that cool car and get back in there.
Well, do you
and
think
have
that's
some
why
fun.
they focus multiplayer on racing?
I think they focus multiplayer on racing
because they already had it built. That's
Well,
what I
because
think.
they really intend for this to be a new franchise, and it's a single-player franchise, and it is so well known for what they're supposed to do with multiplayer. They're holding that for what I assume is going to be Doom 4, which has
Yep.
a longer reputation. I think
Yeah.
is something that's
Wouldn't
involved.
I agree
a
100%.
Bandit Horde mode have been easy, and then you could have played with your friends and got to shoot the guns.
Yeah, but who cares about Horde? I mean, when Gears has Horde mode, and like there's Left 4 Dead. I mean, I think they also realize like it's a pretty crowded environment out there, and I think
But
by
this
saying
is a shooter.
right, but they're not. I like because they're not trying to trick you into buying a multiplayer game. It is so not first
Yeah,
and
they're not
foremost.
selling
They're
it as
saying we're
multiplayer.
selling you a single player
Right.
game, and I have to tip my hat to Bethesda for having, I think, the balls to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That you know that's it is it's 4-person multiplayer. I think it's fun with friends. I don't I think similar to the Assassin's Creed multiplayer, there's some clever fun things to do in there, and it helps that it controls so well. But I don't know where the longevity is.
Well, I think that what they've done is there's game design, and they design their games a certain way for a number of years, and then they took a step back for 6 or 7 or 8 years, 7 years, I think,
Yeah.
since they're since Doom.
Which they did after Quake 3, pretty
Yeah,
much.
but they take a step back. They work on what they do first and foremost. They work on their engine, and then they build their game around their technology. And I think that they still have a lot to learn about game design in today's market. But I think this is a great step in the right direction for them. And I think that when they release the inevitable, and I'm using Game of the Year as just a general term, but the inevitable Game of the Year edition of
The
this,
one
which
that
collects
has
all
all
the
the
DLC
stuff
and
together,
everything,
yeah.
I think it's going to go from being a really, really good game to a great game when they finally release all of this stuff. When it
I
finally
think-
all comes together, I think it's going to be.
I think also, I hope there's a sequel to this game, despite how upset I was at the end of it. When they can only focus on design and they're not as kind of stuck in not just trying to make id Tech 5, but make id Tech 5 work on a PlayStation 3 and a 360. I think, because they have all the design there, you can just feel that they had to get the game done. And that there are some
Well,
corners that were
Carmack
cut.
himself said at QuakeCon this year, he's like, we can't take 6 years to make our next game.
No, they've
we
said
can't
that.
do it because
Right.
I know it's hurting them too. Bottom line.
Well, and they're owned by Bethesda. Like it's not the deal that they had with Activision when they were just kind of like what 20th Century Fox was to Lucasfilm. They are owned wholly by a company that has Jerry Bruckheimer on their board of directors.
Yeah.
And how many movies does he put out a year in TV shows? I mean,
37?
That's Captain Output right
37.
there.
And you should probably also point out too, since this is going up tomorrow, it'll be on Wednesday. The problems that Matt was talking about,
yes,
the PC version.
I
I don't know
only
if you
started
guys
to
heard
learn
about this.
late night. Obviously, I was interested in playing this on the PC now. I played it on the 360. I guess the game auto detects your settings, so you're not sitting there sliding things.
And it doesn't allow you, from what I understand,
exactly.
to
That's
actually.
locked into what it is.
So the drivers for ATI or NVIDIA cards may not be up to date. More or less, this game is apparently not performing well on monster computers due to some driver problems. And I guess this
And
auto
like
detect.
really unwell. Not like
Yeah.
to standards, but like a downgrade like
It looks
7
like
years.
a game you were playing on the 3DFX card.
Which is interesting though, because at QuakeCon I played for 2.5 hours on a PC with a gamepad, and it looked gorgeous.
We
Well,
played.
I'm
We
sure
played
it
on a
wasn't
PC.
like-
at
Obviously,
PAX.
they had it
We played
optimized.
too.
We played on a
but-
PC at PAX, and it was
Looked
genius.
great,
Like
right?
it's.
I mean,
It's just like some
I
hopefully
don't
stumbling
understand.
blocks.
I've only gotten wind of this. I don't understand the vagaries of it. Carmack himself has actually made some comments about it as well. Obviously, update your drivers. This just unfortunately happens a lot with console games
Yeah.
and their PC launch. That PC launch just tends to have some problems with it. I'm hoping soon because I would like to play this on the PC again.
I'm positive this will be fixed soon, and
Right.
because I played this game on the 360, and I immediately wished I had it on the PC. I couldn't because I got it early.
There are moments. Dead City, which is probably one of the most expansive and impressive
And
stretch of
unexplained.
game.
Oh, it's a city that died.
It's
City
there's
that-
like
Explanation.
floods of waterfall or
There
waterfall
are
of blood.
bloody waterfalls.
No,
for
no, no, they
reason. I'm
explain
like,
it.
where's this blood coming from?
When?
Well, they don't explain exactly what that is, but you do know that there are things that have been done in experiments in a hospital there that may have been leading to things later on in the game that are not fully explained. But
So-
at that moment, I thought they were being explained, and we're getting a clue.
And it didn't happen.
Read deeply between the lines, Nicole.
but-
So
Write your own
deep.
fan
Just
fiction.
so
But,
write your own flash fiction.
That's the one part, because that's the thing. So with the biggest open environment, you can see that they had to kind of qualify some of the textures in the distance and where you can't go to be able to render it. Because 60 frames a second seems to be the most important. And then, but on the whole, there's very few console games out there that had the fidelity of this one.
And finally, a pretty post-apocalyptic game where there's
It's
not
gorgeous.
one
Yeah.
color. Yeah, there's
I'm
lots of color.
looking forward to the end of the world.
It's like the nature had its own AI, and like the wind would like blow through the town,
Yeah.
and it'd be dust. It was lovely.
and the greatest card game inside of a video
Oh my
game
God. What's this one?
ever.
They should release that game.
That
Can you
is-
buy
No,
that
that's
game?
I
Sailor's
want to
Poker.
buy.
That's called Sailor's Poker.
Yeah.
What's this
Have you
called?
ever
No, that's
seen
Five Finger
Aliens?
Fillet in that
Yeah,
game.
dude, the card game is. I
was in
spent
Red Dead
more
Redemption.
time
I
trying to
couldn't play
find
that.
better cards to play the card
there are
game
a
in the
lot of good
bars.
Is that why you
collectibles.
collect cards?
Yeah, there's a strategy
oh,
card
it
game you
bigs your,
play.
your deck. Oh, it's so
You can play it in
fun.
the
I
bar
have
in
a ton of those.
Wellspring. You play in the bar.
Got it.
So fun.
So let's speak of the end of the world. We have another interesting question of the week. It's pretty much a roundtable for all of us. If you didn't work for G4 in video game journalism, how about if you didn't work for G4 covering video games? What would you be doing? What would you like to be doing? With the extra time you might have away from games, how would you spend your time?
Like if it didn't exist at all. Just video games weren't in this world.
Well, I think video games can be in the world, but now it's
You're doing
your
so
choice and not your calling. What would you be doing, Blair?
It's video. My favorite job of all time, including this job, although this is a great job. When I was in college, I worked at the R Zone at Toys R Us,
Nice.
and that was fantastic.
The what zone?
The R Zone, it's their game stop inside
So you'd
Toys
be the guy
R Us.
behind the counter, like, I'm
So
sorry,
if you
we're out of
couldn't
stock.
talk
We
about
don't have
video
that.
games, you would sell video games?
Yeah, it was great, man. Because the best part is that
Blair, with all due respect, how old are you?
yeah, I was just so you know, I was
now.
I was 19 working at the R Zone,
So, but
which
would
is
you
creepy
be,
as
would you be your age
Which made him
now
senior.
Oh, I would
selling the games?
100% because I'd be a manager, bro. I get a longer lunch break. It'd be all
Yes.
good. No, but honestly, like, okay, kids go to GameStop to buy games. Parents go to Toys R Us to buy games, and it sounds stupid, but I really liked explaining to parents what made games good and what was appropriate, and it was a way to talk about games to people that didn't know anything about games but were very interested in learning about them. And
Can I get my Grand Theft Auto for the 5-year-old over there?
yeah. I mean, Tickle Me Elmo sold out,
That's
so I
sort
got to
of
get
what I see
something.
Blair doing, though. This
Yeah.
is your 10-year-old Timmy. He'll love Saints Row the Third.
Yeah, no, well, of course, but I mean, I'd be a manager, dude, at the R Zone, and be awesome. So I wouldn't have to wear the Jeffrey
what would
costume.
you be doing, Kevin?
That's a good question. When I first came to LA from Texas, I worked in film development for like 10 years. And then worked for the Jim Henson Company in my last like 5, and
That's so cool.
they sold the Muppets to Disney.
You wanna
and
be a
The company
puppeteer?
kind of shrank. No, I would be working back in film development, either writing scripts or I did extensive notes, which I liked. A lot of people hate that whole coverage reading scripts thing, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I miss that world.
And
Fixing
Nicole?
people's mistakes.
Well, I've
Yeah, I like it.
never
Funny
not
enough.
worked in video games. Like my first job was at Best Buy selling video games, and
Try
I was
banking.
freelance.
To give you good perspective
Okay.
on video games.
But I think that if I didn't go into video games, I would have been a paleontologist
Whoa.
and like
She
studied
does
dinosaurs.
love dinosaurs.
But Ross on Friends ruined paleontology for me because he was just so whiny. So
He's
Yeah,
not. He's
not a
not.
real
Definitely not a real
paleontologist.
person.
well, he ruined
Yeah,
it.
it's
So
just a guy.
I don't know. Something with dinosaurs.
What about Jurassic Park? Wouldn't that erase any?
That's not
Ross-
paleontology. That's genetics.
Yeah,
I
Genetics.
do that.
Archaeologist.
I'll be a geneticist. Dinosaur geneticist.
There you go.
Um,
What about you?
I probably would have done something I would be more proud of.
Oh, come
Nah,
on.
I think
What are
yeah.
you talking about? That Naked Gunner billboard is beautiful.
I know that at some point when I'm 60, I'm like, yeah, you should have gotten that PhD in lit.
It's not too late, Adam. It's not too late.
Oh, it's too late. The brain's gone soft. All the games that I've been playing. Now, how soft it's going to be, hopefully, will not happen too soon. Well, I'll let you guys know we have a very special show next week. Respawn's Vince Zampella is going to be joining us. He's going to be
Not talking about
with
his
us.
He won't be talking at all about the game that they're making right now.
Yes, we may not know too much about that, but obviously he's a wonderful guy. Really, wonderful opinions, and his knowledge of the game industry really doesn't have much parallel. And I look forward to having his insight. That will be next week on Feedback. Remember, Feedback always goes up on the air every Wednesday, but you can see it any other time during the week. And if you want to see one from a year ago and kind of see if we were different back then, feel free to do that as well. It's still a web hit, and that's what Epictober's all about. So go to the site, go download some stuff, watch it, and tell your friends, because it'll make us and you and probably someone somewhere else very, very happy.
Do you play World of Warcraft or one of its 1,000 clones? Do you know what a mob or pug is? Then you'll want to make sure to check out the MMO Report. It gives you all the massively multiplayer online news you could want in a neat little package named Casey Schreiner. Check out all new episodes every Thursday over at g4tv.com/MMO. You're welcome.